Welcome to the Mike White Podcast, where I, Mike White, share my conversations and book reviews through my journey to learn all that goes on in this amazing world. Buckle up and enjoy the ride. Nothing on this podcast is financial advice. It's for educational and entertainment purposes only. With that, enjoy the show. All right, we're back on the Mike White Podcast. I am joined by Ben with genZ4btc. He's joining me this Friday morning on his summer break, so I really appreciate that, Ben. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to get to speak to all you guys and get more exposure and get the word out. But yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I love talking to Bitcoiners, and you are a rare Bitcoiner. You don't see many people your age learning about money and going down the rabbit hole. So I wanted to give the audience, if you could tell them a little bit about yourself and what you're doing there with genZ for BTC.
Yeah, so I'm a 13-year-old boy, about to turn 14 very soon. And I am a middle schooler going into high school, just interested in our future more than other people my age, I would say. And I think that I have a chance to make a difference for other kids' futures who don't have the chance and the opportunity to learn as early as I did, because we aren't taught it in school and aren't like in an environment about it like how I am. So I just want to make it fair for everybody.
Yeah, and then with genZ4btc, I see you got your Twitter account, so everyone should follow you at genZ4btc. You're posting videos, you're posting content, a lot of good discussion there, and I'm looking forward to following along your journey and what you're doing for Bitcoin there. And you're talking about school and money. What kind of education do they teach you guys about central banks or about what exactly is money or any sort of economics?
So that's a good question. I'm trying to make sure I get everything right so that I don't answer wrong because my school could see this. I don't think in my 3 years of middle school we've learned anything about how our banking system works in any way. I mean, I know that we haven't even taught about the debasement of a dollar. Like, we just know that you can, like, we learned a little bit about taxes, I would say. Like, we just, so that we can pay taxes in the future. Like, that was the only thing they wanted us to do, is pay taxes. That's what it seems like. That's all we've learned about. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, be good employees and give your share to the government.
Yeah.
So you're talking about how your mom actually introduced you to Bitcoin. So what was it about her going down that journey that piqued your interest?
So yeah, it's a pretty long story. I'm gonna say most of it I can remember. It all started. Here, I'm just gonna. You want me to go from when she learned, or
Yeah.
okay? So
Jump right in.
a long, long time ago, like whenever I was born, around 2009, and then like I remember she told me in like 2010 or 11, I forgot what year it was, she wanted to get into Bitcoin and was like looking at it because one of her nerdy college friends was telling her about it, and she was actually about to buy it at one point, and she was gonna have to meet somebody in McDonald's parking lot and give them like $500 money as like a college girl to some random guy. And she has no clue who he is, and then she backed out of that, and of course regretted it like 5 years later. And
That would have been a
then,
lot of Bitcoin in
yeah,
2009.
or I don't think it was exactly 2009. I think it was the next thing, but she heard about it since it came
Yeah.
out because of her friends.
Okay.
And then I think it was 2018 or the last bull. I'm not gonna get dates completely correct. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I'll just go by the events. The last bull run, she was going to buy it, and then she didn't because she thought it was too late because it was already on the news and everything. She's like, "Oh, it's too late. I'm not gonna get anything." And then she regretted that again. And finally, this bull run during Christmas, about like 2 years ago, I think it was now, or a year and a half ago maybe. Um, she decided to give herself $500 for a Christmas present to learn how to trade Bitcoin, and that's how it all started for her. And I remember it was Christmas break, And every single time I would kind of come out of my room for playing video games or being a kid, she would always be watching videos about it and learning about everything that has to do with it. Like every single minute I come out, just different videos on about it. And she would tell me, "Hey Ben, you should look at this. Hey Ben, look at this video. This is actually really cool." And I would be like, "Okay, mom." And I'd go back to playing video games. Or I'd go back to doing something because it didn't matter really. I'm just a kid. And then I remember when COVID happened, how like tough it was for our family basically, because my mom had to work really hard, and at one point was selling paintings, like pour paintings, where she would like pour paint, and it'd be a really cool looking painting. She would try to
Oh,
sell
cool.
those on Facebook just to like make rent, and I remember that was really hard, all because just everything was really tough, and then that was pretty crazy. And then my mom told me about the trucking event in Canada, and that really peaked, like, and clicked a thing in my brain, a switch that told me like, there's something really up. Like something's happening. My mom's not joking. It's not all perfect how I'd been taught in school. And
Yeah,
then like,
because in
yeah,
that trucking event, if people aren't aware, they had truckers go on strike against the government. They didn't like their mandates, and they were able to freeze funds to the truckers, and even anyone that supported them, they could freeze their bank account. Just executive order type stuff.
hmm and then even in America, you couldn't donate through the common donating things. They can't like they banded all of the trucking donation things on GoFundMe, I think. And I don't want to name the other ones because I don't remember the names, but like they were canceling those. Like you're supposed to be able to donate to what you want to, and they just canceled it. I think that was just crazy.
Yeah.
And then they started using Bitcoin, my mom said, or some people were. Of course, it wasn't as big because it wasn't as big, but the idea that they were able to do that, it just was pretty crazy in my mind. And then she kept on doing research and stuff. There was always videos on still. And then there was just one day that I watched the Ray Dalio like world
Changing world order
Yeah,
type thing.
changing world order. I watched that video and that blew my mind. I just watched video and video and video, and I stayed up really late on a school night, just watching videos and stuff, and then it really just clicked in my head.
That
Bitcoin's important, and I officially went down the rabbit hole.
That's awesome. And I think that shows it's so important where the initial interest, I think a lot of people, you see the number go up and you're like, wait, why is the number going up? Why is it still
hmm
staying around? And the learning journey is so important to truly understand the benefits of Bitcoin, what Bitcoin is. And that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing, is because it seems that you're focusing on that and making sure that they don't have to wait till they're out of high school and college where they might actually learn about Austrian economics or something like that. You're giving help to these kids that aren't getting the education on money that they need, and you're introducing them to a revolutionary technology, which I think is just really exciting. So I was wondering what your plans are with Gen Z for BTC. I already saw you put out a video about inflation and how money gets debased, and how has it been so far doing that? And
Yeah, so thank you. That's the only video we've made so far, because I don't actually plan on making the videos, like producing them myself and recording them.
yeah,
That's not really what my interest is. My interest is to, of course, have stuff for the kids, and I could like direct and stuff and get the right idea, but I just want to think about like a little website, a little page that I could have a bunch of easy to understand videos. Like let's just say like 10 videos you could scroll, like only like 3 minutes each, so really easy to see, and they're shareable too. You can go to all the social media platforms, and you can just go and order from like deflation to like how the banking system works, how they move around money, to just maybe even some like a little bit of history about more in depth into about what happened with the gold standard and how that tanked the whole entire world. And then eventually it would lead up to Bitcoin, which I don't want to force it. It's like just I want to tell everybody there's another option that is um liable and like safe to use other than dollar if you need it. So when that time comes, when they start getting paychecks in and they have to pay bills, they know there's another thing they can do.
and I think it's so important that there's someone out there your age that is putting out this content? Because I think a lot of kids kind of just brush it off. I would imagine, oh, Bitcoin's for investors or adults or stuff like that. So, what has been your experience talking to your friend group? Are they interested in Bitcoin?
Um, yeah, so that's a good question because most of them I would say aren't interested into it. Some of them, or some of the kids I know, are like, "Oh, you're a stupid Bitcoin," or "Oh, you're doing your Bitcoin." Like they say it. There's just this way I remember, like your Bitcoin. They say it so like incriminating, trying to make it feel like I'm doing something wrong. Which I think is crazy how somebody could say that when they don't know anything about it. They just like flip to saying it's bad just because nobody else is doing it. That's how kids are nowadays. So I think it's important to show to kids that it's okay to try to do something different and do your research. And then kids, there's some kids that were okay with it. Like they were like kinda, they were like, oh, that's cool. Why are you doing this? And there were some kids that were like slightly that were like a little bit more educated on money, and they knew that the like gold standard got broken off, and they know money isn't backed by anything. But then they would question me like in a nice way. They would be like, "Hey Ben, why would you want to be in Bitcoin when it just crashed?" And then that would be always a tough topic because it's really hard to change the way of a mind thinks of one Bitcoin will always be one Bitcoin, even if its relative price goes down. Like that's a hard. I'd say that's probably one of the hardest things to get to somebody to officially orange pill them is to
Yeah.
understand how that works. That Bitcoin will always be going up, no matter how long in relative price to anything that doesn't have a capital limit. So I think it's been I've been trying to get my friends involved. Some of them are okay with it and will get it, but again, they can't even buy it if they wanted to yet. So that's the biggest thing.
It is tough to conceptualize, and that's why I think your videos are helpful because it shows that image and it gives good analogies. And I heard you talking your podcast yesterday with the Green Candle, Brandon over there, how you were introduced to Rich Dad Poor Dad at your age, and I thought that was really impressive. Someone your age already read that book. Was that after Bitcoin or
Yeah,
before
that was
Bitcoin?
before Bitcoin actually. Like I would say a year or 2 years before, maybe a year before I even heard of Bitcoin. Like before that Christmas my mom started. I've always wanted to, of course, I want to be successful. I want to live a nice life. And I knew you're going to need money to do what I want to do. So I always was interested and was like, what could I learn that would teach me about money? Not how to make it, not what jobs pay the most, not college, like just how money works and how to make it. And I did some research online. I was like, I want to get Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then I bought it and I read all of it except for like the last 4 pages. I read all of it pretty much, and it's a very good book with just teaching. I don't even remember. If I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember exactly like the things on it. I just remember it was a very well designed book, and it kind of changed how I thought of money and how taxes work and what the government wants from its average citizens compared to its upper class that help run the actual country. It just kind of blew my mind, and that's probably one of the big things that like showed me how big of an effect Bitcoin could have in the future if we utilize it properly.
Yeah, and I think that probably helped your understanding because you got introduced to that. I know he talks about the gold standard there and how that was superior and how prices shouldn't be going up. Inflation really shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
happening if it was actually pegged to something fairly stable like gold. And even gold, though, you're going up
Oh
2%
yeah,
every year. Um, so I think I agree. Everyone should check that book out. It's not a Bitcoin book, but
yeah, it's
it's a good
an
perspective.
original one. Yeah, for sure. It's one that I think every teenager should always read because it's really easy to understand. Because I remember the first 2 chapters it is, I think. It's in a story format of rich dad and then poor dad and his kid, which is like the perspective. And poor dad always tells the kid go to school and get a nice job and get paid by the hourly so you can afford stuff. And then rich dad just goes about it from a completely different standpoint about learning about money and learning how to generate like wealth through assets and it's a really good book, I would say.
And I'd say
Like,
it's pertinent now more than ever with the
yeah,
internet
sure.
and how many different ways you can make money. And that's why I think it's so cool what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be one path or the other. Like I'm sure you're still going to school. Like it's good to get good grades.
Well, yeah, of
It,
course.
it
Like,
keeps
yeah, it doesn't mean to stop doing high school or anything. Like, you should definitely finish high school, I would say. You need high school.
yeah.
Like, whether you want to go to college, it's up to the person and their family and what they want to do when they grow up. Like, you have to know what you want to do as your profession. If you want to go and study it and spend thousands of dollars on it, in my opinion, I think you should know what you're going to want to do when you go to spend thousands of dollars on it. Some people can do what they want. They want to go spend thousands of dollars and switch, not do it. It's up to them. They may have money for it, but I certainly don't yet, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it shows you the importance of that decision to go into debt and how
Hmm.
impactful debt can be. And like for him, there's good debt where he
Yeah,
goes into
good
debt
day.
to buy his real estate and he knows he's going to get that return. But if you're going into debt for like an unknown reason, that's
Hmm.
scary as heck.
Yeah, like that's actually scary to think about. I just think of like a big, endless black hole that will never ever be closed because it's just impossible with the rate of stuff rising. And it's just like, I think it's a scary thing to get into, and kids should be warned about it before they go to college. And if they're not taught about it before college, how are they supposed to know about it?
And you can't expect your government to teach it to you because they're the worst about their debt. Like that
Hmm.
debt is out of control. So you got to get it from somewhere else, like Gen Z for BTC.
Thank you.
But
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you about you went to the Bitcoin conference in Miami this year, which looked like you met some incredible people, and I wanted to hear like what were your highlights there?
Yeah, so that I had a blast there. Like just getting to meet everybody. Like I couldn't even be able to name every single person, but like I met so many great people and got in contact with so many great people. I would say all probably thanks to Greg Foss. If I'm being honest, he was like just a little miracle in my life if I think about it. Because my mom, I don't even know why, just reached out to him one day and was like, "Is it okay to bring a 13-year-old to Bitcoin Miami?" And then surprisingly he answered really quick, and they just started talking back and forth about like bringing me to the conference. And then she told him about my little idea about getting to teach kids and show kids in a not like classroom environment way. And then apparently that really sparked his interest, and then I got to go to like tons of just a couple different things, and it was really cool. He showed me some really great people. Got to meet Natalie Brunell, and like I don't even want to try to start naming people. It's
I
just
saw you with Sailor there too. You got a
yeah,
picture with
gotta,
Sailor.
gotta just took a picture of Sailor, and that was pretty cool. I got to go to the Toxic Happy Hour party. Now that was a pretty fun experience too. There's like so many great people on the same roof. It was crazy. And that was a blast. Just the environment, like it doesn't even like matter where it is. Like it could be in like a random basement, but just the environment of all the Bitcoiners together, they all think the same way. When you're used to walking out and being like an outcast compared to everybody, just feels amazing that everybody is thinking the same way as you, and like it's transparent of what everybody thinks about money.
And I think a huge part of that is you reaching out and willing to go there and talk to the people and being passionate about Bitcoin. The Bitcoin community, like your age group, is a huge part. Like that's we want to make it better, and if not the Gen Z type thing, when Social Security starts, when people actually start facing that problem and all this debt problems, like it will be an ugly financial economic situation for
Hmm.
the generations to come. And that's why, like you said, Greg Foss is one of the best about that. He always tweets for the kids because
Hmm.
there is an issue and we can't keep kicking the more we kick the can down the road, it's just going to build up and get worse. So it's
Yeah.
Bitcoin's super important right now.
Hmm. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. So you had a great trip to Miami, and
Hmm.
now you're like in the Bitcoin ecosystem. I see your Twitter starting to get more and more active. Uh, I just saw you release something called Set Aside Sats. I
Yeah,
was wondering if you wanted to talk about
that was
that.
a big thing. So set aside sats is the idea that every Bitcoiner can set aside just $25 with a Bitcoin in an account in a wallet so that they can give it to a kid or a person in the future that they care about, and they could have them work for it or not, and it could kind of be like a little bit like Rich Dad, to where they get to learn about money and understand how it works, not how to earn it, but how it like works and how it moves around. And then they could also learn about Bitcoin and how that works. In return, they could maybe get that wallet with, I don't know how much it'll be worth in the future. It's probably going to be a lot more than $25, but you could give it to them for like $25 worth of work. Because if you held it from now to then, it would literally just be like a savings account meant to be given to somebody at a higher price and teach them about, like, somebody you care about. Just think about like a literal orange pill. Like, that wallet is just an orange pill. You teach them about it, you show them everything they need to know to start an orange pill them, you give it to them as the orange pill, and they take it, and they should, if you teach them properly, they should know they just hold it and learn how to buy it. And I think that's a really great thing that we could do to get the word out about kids are going to be important in the future as well, because they're the ones that are going to have to grow into what all of the old people's mistakes and choices are.
I love that idea because I have two young cousins, a few years younger than you, and I could talk to them about Bitcoin, but they're probably not going to be interested. But if I say, hey, when you graduate high school, I got this $25 worth of Bitcoin for you, and as the years go on, they can see that number going up, changing, and it probably peaks. The number go up definitely piques people's interest, and
Mm-hmm.
then that's, I think, can lead to the education. So I'm excited about what you're doing there, and I'll definitely give it a look.
Thank you. Yeah, we just got the website put together. Some nice people helped me out with getting that put together because I'm not a programmer, and I think it's a really cool thing. And you just go, you say how much sats you put aside in your wallet. You can put your name or anonymous if you want, and it keeps a little tracker. And then I'm just wondering how many people would do it. If it doesn't get that popular, it's okay. It's the idea that counts and the people that do see it. Just getting the word more out about the kids, which is my goal. And then I think it's a great opportunity for more stuff just to happen for the kids.
What's the best way to support Gen Z for Bitcoin or BTC? Is it pledging sats there and following you on Twitter? Is there anything else that
Yeah,
you need
so
help with?
um as I'm taking all donations or anything anybody wants to give out, of course I would take that and put it forward to something or some project to have in the future. You can see that on my Twitter, which is genZ4btc, just on Twitter. And there is a Lightning wallet on there. And at setasideSats.com, which is just no space set aside sats, SATS.com. There's also a Lightning wallet and a normal wallet on there that is Bitcoin. You can send what you want to there if you would want to help.
Awesome. I'll have those links in the show notes as well. So if you guys are, you can just scroll down and click and send zap some sats to Ben over here. All right, and then I wanted your perspective on one of the things I hear a lot is people against self custody saying self custody is too difficult. People aren't going to be holding their own Bitcoin in the future. Everything's going to be custodial. And I wanted someone in your generation's perspective of,
Mm-hmm.
have you interacted with a hardware wallet, and do you think they are too much of a burden?
So I'm actually not extremely educated on that, but what I can say from just this is like a raw opinion. Like, think about an opinion from somebody that wasn't like, I know some about it, of course, but I would say I think if you're gonna buy Bitcoin, which is literally just like freedom away from the government, you should hold it yourself. Like, that would be like buying a bar of gold for somebody to hold for you that could literally just take it if something came down to it. Sure, they could be a really trustworthy person. When it comes down to like life or death or food, buying food or water, I think it's important to hold your only true asset away from the government, yourself, and just educate yourself about it and learn about it, and then it would be like a really great investment of your time and money, so that there's zero risk that it could be taken away from you. versus that little bit of risk that could possibly ruin a lot of things for your life. That's just what I think, though. I'm not exactly truly educated on that like yet, all those ideas or all those opinions. So like
Yeah.
my opinion isn't like valid, but that's what I think.
No, yeah, I agree. Like it's an investment, and I think that's why it's important to have the other types of options for custody, because if like when I was a kid, I didn't have money to buy like hardware wallets are pretty expensive. Like it's almost
Hmm.
like a game console. Like I'd probably buy an Xbox before I bought a hardware wallet, but um, so there still is options to levels of custodial risk, and it's important to research those. But ultimately, the self custody is
Yeah,
the
that's the
best.
goal. Yeah, that's the
Yes.
end goal. Because after you can get enough money or mow enough lawns, for me, I would say,
Yeah,
just getting that, and it's like a investment that'll last and hold that asset truly safe for the rest of your life.
definitely. All right, Ben. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. Do you have any
Hmm.
final thoughts for the Bitcoiners out there?
So I was wondering, or yeah, so final thoughts is the kids matter, and thank you for having me on. Like I would, anybody out there that has a podcast or a little show, I don't care if you get 5 viewers a month or if you have thousands. I'll speak and talk to you about whatever you want to talk about, Bitcoin related or about my life. Open to talk. Thank you for having me on. That's about it. And I was wondering, how was it in the military?
Oh, yeah, it was a good time. 5 years of it was rewarding, but not something I'd want to do in a career. I was on a submarine, so
Oh, that
didn't get to
sounds,
see a lot of sunlight.
yeah, that sounds tough. I've seen a video, Mark Rover made a video about how it is in a submarine, and that was pretty cool. I've always been, I wasn't sure if I wanted to join the military, but I've always been interested in how it all goes on and how there's order to everything. And I've always thought that was cool. Like, I've seen videos about like boot camp and how that works. And thank you for your service. I think it's amazing that you did that. And
Thank you.
that's it.
Yeah, if you ever want to talk about it, I can tell you more about the Navy itself. My dad was an Air
Hmm.
Force fighter pilot, so
That's
he's got
cool.
the Air Force point of view. But the thing is, the discipline I think is a great quality to have, and
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need the military to get that. I think I heard what you're doing. You're doing like wrestling and
Yeah,
football,
wrestling,
and
it doesn't compare to the military or anything you guys do, I would say, but it's definitely the hardest sport you could do as a high school or college athlete, mentally wise, because you have to have the agility of a sprinter, the stamina of a marathon runner, and the mindset of a professional chess player. And it can be tough because even when you're not on the wrestling mat, if you can't go out and eat cupcakes when you're at a party or do stuff like that, and that can be hard for a kid at least to have to go through that. Going to a
that's the
birthday party,
discipline.
yeah,
That's the
that's the
discipline aspect, right?
part. Mm-hmm. It's
So
just a
yeah, I
lot.
think if you keep doing that, you'll definitely get that discipline bug and set you up for success. And you got Bitcoin, so you got a bright orange future out there. But
Thank you.
yeah, thanks so much, Ben. I'll have all your links in the show notes at
Mhm.
genz for Bitcoin. Email
Yeah.
him at genz for Bitcoin for BTC, and the four is the number 4
Yep.
.com. All right, Ben. See ya. Thank you for listening to the Mike White Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Mike White Pod, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Y'all have a great day.